Good morning, 8th grade math students, and welcome to virtual math class. Today we are going to be looking at finding the y-intercept from a table. Our objective for today is the students will be able to find the y-intercept, also known as the initial value, of a function from a table and use it to compare functions. So really it's the exact same thing as what we were doing yesterday, but we're going to go a step further in looking at how we find the y-intercept from a table. So for our first example, we are given a table. So what I'm going to do, remember yesterday in our online lesson, we looked at how we can backtrack and find our y-intercept that way. Another way that we can do it is by finding our slope first. So I'm going to look at how I am moving from each one. And so really we just need the slope of 2 points. So if you want to go from -11 to 14, you can. Or if you think it's easier to go from 14 to 24 and from 3 to 5, which I do, you can do it that way. So 14 to 24, we are adding 10 there. So that's plus 10. And then from 3 to 5, what are we doing? We are adding 2. So we have plus 2 and then plus 10. So my slope, because remember y is on top, my slope would be 10 over 2, which equals 5. So that is my slope, or m. And remember that our equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. So since I need to figure out what b is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my slope, which we know is 5, and I'm going to take a point. So we have 3 different points listed here. I'm just going to choose 3 and 14, but really you can use any of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those 2 points and I'm going to plug it in for x and y. So in this case, x is 3, y is 14. So I plug that in. So I have 14 equals, my slope was 5, my x coordinate is 3, and then I have plus b. So now at this point, I need to multiply first, so I'm going to do 15 times 3. So now I have 14 equals 15 plus b. And now this is a one-step equation, so everyone should know how to solve it from this point. I subtract 15 on both sides. That cancels out over here, and so I'm left with b equals 14 minus 15 is -1. So my y-intercept is -1. Again, this is just another option for how we can find our y-intercept from a table. This right here is the formula way. So this way, if you need a step-by-step way to do it, this is for you. So now we are given 2 different functions, so we're going to do the same process. So I look at how I am changing for on this one, and again, really any one. So from 20 to 27, that is adding 27. And then from -5 to 4, that is adding 9. So my slope would be 27 divided by 9, and 27 divided by 9 is 3. So that gives me my slope. Again, that is my slope. So after I have my slope, if I want to find my y-intercept, I use y equals mx plus b, and I plug everything in. So you can choose any point. I'm just going to use the one in the middle. I'm going to use 4, 7. So y is 7. My slope I found was 3. My x coordinate is 4. And then I have plus b. So now I multiply first. 3 times 4 is 12. So now I have 12. I bring down my plus b. Now it's my one-step equation. 12 is positive, so I'm going to subtract it on both sides. That cancels out over here. 7 minus 12 equals -5. So -5 equals b. So if I'm comparing that, that is my y-intercept for function A. For function B, my y-intercept is where x equals 0. So that's right here at -4. So in this case, remember that negatives are kind of backwards. So function B would have a higher y-intercept or a greater y-intercept than function A. Another example, so again, I have my table, so I'm going to find my slope first. So from 5 to 10, that is adding 5. From 2 to 3, that is adding 1. Remember that this leading into our next lesson, doing it like this is only going to be the case in linear functions. And these are we already know that these are linear. So then my slope is 5 over 1, which is just going to equal 5. Now I use y equals mx plus b, and I plug it in. So you can use any coordinate. I'll just use the first one. So y is 5. My slope I found was 5. My x is 2. And then I bring down my plus b because I don't know what plus b is. I don't know what b is, so that's why I leave it there. So now I multiply 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. And now I have a one-step equation. So I need to get b by itself, so I need to move 10. That 10's positive, so the opposite will be to subtract. It cancels out on this side. 5 minus 10 is negative 5, and that equals b. So b equals negative 5 for function b. For function a, remember the same thing. It's in slope-intercept form, so y equals mx plus b. So what is in the form of plus b? Negative 4. So in this case, b, or my y-intercept, is negative 4. I didn't even realize that this is basically the exact same thing as the last one. So if b equals negative 4 and b equals negative 5, which one would be greater? Function a would be. So pretty straightforward. It's just one extra step. Okay, so this is really like where we're leading. So this one says Connor and Pilar are at a rock climbing club. They are climbing down a canyon wall. Connor starts from a cliff that is 200 feet above the canyon floor and then climbs at an average speed of 10 feet per minute. Pilar climbs down the canyon wall as shown in the table. So at 0, Pilar is at 242. So remember that the initial value is our starting point. So Connor, it tells us, starts from a cliff that is 200 feet above the canyon floor. So Connor, our initial value is 200. For Pilar, that's going to be 242 because, again, it's where it's starting out at. So for the rate of change, we look for words like per or each, something along those lines. So in terms of Connor, it tells us that he climbs at an average speed of 10 feet per minute. So his rate of change is going to be 10 feet per minute. Now for Pilar, we are going to do our table. We use the table. So we are going from 242 to 234. What is happening there? And then we go from 0 to 1. That would be subtracting 8 right there, and this would be plus 1. So for that one, would be negative 8 over 1, which is just going to be negative 8. Notice that on the first, for Connor, that should be a negative since he's going down. So our average rate of change would be negative 8 for Pilar and negative 10 for Pilar. So, or Connor's negative 10. So that would be our initial value and our rate of change for each person. So compare the results and what they mean. So our initial value for Connor, it would be that he starts at his starting point before he begins to climb down. And that would be the same thing for Pilar because they are still talking about climbing down the canyon wall. And so then the rate of change is going to be the rate at which they climb down. We're going to get into this a little bit more, so this is kind of just an introduction as to what is coming next. And lastly, you are doing fantastic. I'm so proud of all the hard work that you are putting in. Remember, I am here for you. If you have questions, all you have to do is ask. I believe in you, and you are doing amazing things.